Moving over to a welterweight class now, we got Michael Venom Page coming in at minus 185, going up against Sam Patterson, who comes in at plus 160. Now, Michael Page is on a 2-fight winning streak. He is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, 3-1 in the UFC. His only loss coming to Ian Machado Gary in a very close fight. That was a fight where I took Gary as my lock of the night play, and he came through, but Page made it much more difficult than I expected him to. Gary got to his grappling the way that I thought he would, but that fight was 1-1 going into the last round, and Gary, for his life, was holding on to that back position once he got Page's back, and he was able to grind it out and win that fight. But Page has managed to bounce back by getting decision wins over Shara Magomedov and Jared Cannonier. He's been bouncing between 170 and 185 pounds as well. You see his grappling not looking as good at 185 pounds, which is why Jared Cannonier was able to get him down a few times. In the final round, he got held down for about 4 rounds and lost that on all scorecards. And that's kind of been his issue. He's also a few weeks shy of his 39th birthday, something to definitely take into consideration there. But when you see him at his range and fighting his point karate kickboxing style, he's very hard to deal with. He gets into a flow state, his reflexes are still there, his speed is still there, his striking defense is still there. That's why it's so hard for these strikers like Magomedov, Holland, and even Cannonier to try to find success trying to hit this guy. Obviously we know the Douglas Lima knockout where Page was getting back to his feet and Douglas caught him with a shot that he didn't see coming. But for the most part, Page is usually very good in terms of not getting hit clean, and that's why guys really struggle in the striking game with him. If they want to have success, it's about the grappling, right? You want to contain him. You want to get him to the ground. You want to be able to accrue at least 2 rounds of control time and hope that the judges give it to you. But on the feet, usually strikes very well and puts on pretty entertaining performances sometimes. Otherwise, he might be a little bit too cautious, mainly just counter-striking, waiting for his opponents to make mistakes. And I think that's where the UFC has run into issues with Page. Because, all credit to Patterson. Obviously, he's on a solid winning streak, looking very good ever since moving to welterweight. But Page should be fighting a higher level name and, somebody closer to a title shot than a guy like Sam Patterson looking to break into title contention. Wins over Shara Magomedov and Jared Cannonier should be giving him either a former champ or somebody that will put him closer to a title shot. But for some reason, he's even voiced it that the UFC doesn't seem to be all that big of a fan of him, hence why he's fighting Sam Patterson on this card, and not even in a co-main event position either, right? Now he's going up against Sam Patterson, who's on a 4-fight winning streak ever since moving up to 170 pounds. He made his UFC debut at 155 pounds against Yanal Ashmouz and got absolutely starched that night, got put away in a very nasty fashion. It was one of the nastier knockout losses we've ever seen. Patterson took enough time away, put on the muscle that he needed to go to 170 pounds, and he's gone out there and finished 4 straight opponents in the first round, including that nasty knockout win that he had over Trey Waters last time. The one that really stands out to me is the knockout win that he has over Danny Barlow. That was one where I expected Barlow's striking edge to really cause Patterson some issues, especially with the power that Barlow presented. But Patterson utilized Barlow's aggressiveness against him, clipped him with a big shot, and eventually TKO'd him. And that was a big, big win for Sam Patterson. We've seen in certain fights, especially in his first 2 fights during this run that he's on, that he leans on his grappling. His long, lanky frame usually helps him slap on chokes that are very hard for a lot of opponents to defend, hence why he's been able to get those wins over Johan Lainez and Kiefer Crosby. I believe he's a BJJ black belt, and I like when he showcases his BJJ, but it seems like his durability is a kind of thing of the past now, especially with him at 170 pounds, probably carrying more water weight, carrying a little bit more water in his brain as well to try to keep him conscious whenever he gets hit with these big shots. And he's very skilled. He's very dangerous. And he's still only 29 years old. Very fun striker, a guy that used to deal with a lot of wrestlers back in the day before coming to the UFC, but his lanky frame would cause him a lot of problems. He'd obviously be able to catch some of these guys in guillotines as well, and he's been able to force those guys to tap out as well. But now with his confidence sky high and fighting a high-level name like Michael Page, we'll see if he can really break through to the next level. Unfortunately for him, I don't think so. Unless he goes to a wrestler-heavy approach, which I don't think will be all that effective. He's a good BJJ specialist, but I don't believe all's too much in his wrestling game. I think Page will be able to defend most of the takedowns coming his way from Patterson. I think we'll see Page utilize his usual range striking game, his counter-striking game, and I think that leads to him clipping Patterson here pretty badly, and I think he actually ends up putting him away here. Frame-wise, both guys 6'3". Page only has a 1-inch reach advantage. So, Page is normally a guy that has a decent strike height and reach advantage over his opponents. So I wonder if that lack of advantage in this matchup won't allow him to be as effective from range as he normally is. But I still feel he's going to be the faster fighter and technically superior striker, which should lead to him countering Patterson effectively here. And if he can keep this fight upright, I think Patterson's going to have a lot of trouble trying to land cleanly on Page, and that should lead to Page again, probably gets the decision, but in terms of a prediction, I'm going to go by knockout. I think at a certain point, Patterson's going to get frustrated. He's going to make a mistake, and Page will force him to walk onto a big shot, and we see Page get the knockout here. So give me MVP by knockout.